Good evening. This is Marlene and Heather. I'm the host of Sharing Stories. Oh my God, this evening we have Heather Box, who is the co-founder of the Million Person Project. She's going to be talking about her dynamic work, people that she's trained in the world, 900 change makers around the world. And she's going to share about how you can craft your story into a message to excite change. So Heather, thank you and welcome to Shared Stories.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Marlene.
So why I wanted you to come is I got an experience of being able to partake in one of your workshops. And in doing that workshop, it helped me realize the power of a story. And we're going to talk about that tonight. So I want you to talk about how did it get started? How long has it been started?
Okay, so the Million Person Project has been around for just over 2 years now.
Okay.
And it's a global project about love, storytelling, and connecting changemakers.
Okay.
So what we do is we work with changemakers all over the world. Farmers, activists, people who are running, mission-based companies, and we support them in exploring how their personal story relates to the work that they do in the world. And then we support them in crafting that and being able to deliver that in a powerful way that moves the people that they're talking to action.
Oh my God, that is great. So in learning about your work, I ended up seeing a video about Marshall Gantz. Oh my goodness, please talk about him.
Yeah, so Marshall Gantz is a total storytelling organizing guru, and he was really involved in the civil rights movement with Cesar Chavez, and now he's a professor at Harvard, and he teaches a course on organizing.
Okay.
And he also leads up a network that the Million Person Project is part of called the Leading Change Network.
Okay.
And his work is so exciting, and it's how does storytelling integrate into organizing? Why is it a critical part of change making? And so he was going along in his life doing this great work. And then one of the people that he trained happened to become the president of the United States, Barack Obama. And when that happened, everybody started to be like, whoa, who trained the president, who trained the president to speak like this?
Right.
And he said Marshall Gantz. And so what Marshall did, being the organizer that he is he started to go around and train. I was part of a training that he offered for free to youth leaders around the country to come and learn this storytelling technique.
Okay.
And so I went to DC and partook in a training that he led, which was so exciting and was a really big turning point in my life to learn this storytelling technique.
Oh, well, so in my research, I learned that you've been doing this 15 years.
Yeah, I mean, I've been not the Million Person Project, but yeah,
Yep.
I've been organizing and doing all kinds of work since I was a teenager.
And in the work, talk about some of the people that you've helped in this project.
Okay, yeah. So I think that that's the biggest thing for me about this project is the inspiration that I get from meeting all of these people and hearing their stories about what deeply drives them and getting to support them and really stepping into a deeper level of truth. And to me, there's like no other work to do in the world. I'm just so honored to be able to hold that space. And so I'll tell you about one of the people that we met, and I'll show you a picture.
Okay.
His name is Kaganga John, and he is a rural farmer in Uganda.
Okay.
And he runs an association called the Chikandwa Environmental Association. And when we met him, he's doing incredible work. He's doing incredible work around sustainable farming practices, around organizing farmers to share best practices and that kind of thing. But he was having a really hard time connecting out to the world.
Okay.
And so what we worked with Kaganga John to do is to really hone his story about what inspires him so that he's able to connect on who he is and people can really see, whoa, this dynamic leader and all the work he's doing. Because he was talking from a place of like, what he does and what qualifies him to do that. And instead we worked with him so that he was really sharing about what inspires him. And that's a much more accessible place to connect. And so since we've started working with him, he has now, him and I went, that picture was taken in Rio de Janeiro at a UN conference where he shared his story from the UN stage. And then after that conference and through the connections he made from people who saw his story, he was invited to another smaller meeting of civil society in England. And he's really been starting, the momentum of his organizing has been building.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and he's used his story to raise $4,000 online to build an internet resource center in his community.
Oh my God.
And the struggles that he's up against are huge.
Yes.
He is in no way done with his work, and the story is only one piece of the puzzle of what he needs, but it's an important piece so that he's able to communicate from his heart and really attract the people who are going to support him in that way.
That is awesome. And what about your others? I think you have another picture there.
Yeah, well, this is the picture. So the way that this organization started was Julian Mosi McQueen, who is my boyfriend of 8 years and also the co-founder of the Million Person Project. What we decided was we had been working in youth organizing for years, and we saw a couple different things. One, we saw that, that there was all of these incredible people all over the world doing great work. But a lot of times when they were invited up to speak, that they would fall flat or they would not feel comfortable up there, and they didn't have the support. Maybe they had some rapid fire media training before they stepped on stage, but they didn't have the support they needed to really ground and prepare to tell their personal stories.
Okay.
And so that's what Julian and I decided was one of the things that we wanted to explore to see how we could change that dynamic. And so we started off the Million Person Project as an experiment. And we just decided we're going to go to Vietnam, South Africa, and Uganda for a month to 2 months each.
Okay.
And we're going to work with these change makers that we knew from other jobs that we had. And we're going to support them and see if through this workshop and through one-on-one coaching, people can really improve their ability to present. And most importantly, improve the way that they feel after they present so that they feel really powerful.
Okay.
And so, so that picture is a picture of one of our first trainings in Vietnam when we were like so afraid, like, will this translate? How will people respond to it?
Yes.
And so it was so exciting for us to just get such positive feedback and such important constructive feedback too. We have revised our curriculum now. We did 27 workshops in our first 4-month pilot, and we revised the curriculum 27 times. We were working really hard to make sure that this was boiled down to the essence, to the things that were really important.
And so what inspired me about this project is realizing that you've trained up 900 change makers in 60 countries.
From 60 different
60
countries.
countries? Yeah. I mean, how long did that take?
Well, so we've been around for 2 years, and we did the majority of those 900 change makers. We did 675 change makers within the pilot, within the 4-month pilot.
Okay.
Because we were doing workshops, 2-3 times a week, and we were holding workshops from anywhere from 10 to 20 change makers. And sometimes more. Sometimes we were doing them every day.
So, I want you to talk more about the workshop and what happens in a workshop, what takes place.
Okay, so the workshops are a day long.
Okay.
And what we do is we start the workshop with this process that we learned from our friend Rosa Gonzalez called the life map, where it's a lot of times when people are asked to tell their stories, the majority of people have, one of two responses. One is, I don't really have a story, or it's not really related. Or I think my story is too sad, or it's not, I don't feel comfortable telling it.
Okay.
And so what we do before we get into like, what story would you ever present? What story do you want to speak on? What do you want to share when you do your TEDx talk, or when you do, when you keynote at a conference? Before we do any of that, we just start with the life map, which is just mapping out the big turning points in your life, the influential people in your life, the memorable places, the memories that stick out to you. I call it life gazing. It's kind of like you just look back at your life and you map out what's important to you.
Okay.
And so within the first couple hours of the workshop, you're already sharing that life map in a small group with somebody else. And we're not used to sharing on that level. We're used to just being like, oh, I have went to this school, or I come from this town, or I have this kind of job. And so that's sort of my favorite part of the workshop, is when I watch people realize like, whoa, no, I'm invited to bring my whole self to this workshop. This isn't about like, staying in bounds. This is about being my whole self and sharing my whole truth.
Right.
And then once we really work with people through their life map, then we go into the curriculum that Marshall Gantz designed, which is the story of self, the story of us, and the story of now. And we break down the story into those three parts. And the story of self is about what are the values that you bring to your work. What are those turning points in your life that have made you who you are. And then the second part is the story of us. So it's connecting your personal story and the values that you introduced in that story to the values of your audience.
Okay.
And then the last piece is the story of now. So where are you guys going together? What is the ask for the audience? And what is your vision for the future, when they join you? So it's a public speaking technique that has totally changed my life. The way that I was really nervous to give. I like conversations, but I was really nervous to give speeches. And being trained by Marshall Gantz in this technique really was a huge turning point in my ability to articulate what I was saying on stage.
Right. Awesome. So, now I want you to talk more about your work as a writer.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a writer and I love to write, but it's also like I have a complicated relationship with being a writer. It's like, it's the way in which I process the things that are hard for me to process just by thinking or talking. Right. Like a lot of times through this storytelling work, we're working with people with all different kinds of life experiences. Yes. And some of them are really, they introduce to me like really the depth of, sort of the darkness that a lot of people walk through. And how we cope as human beings in those situations. And how do we have the resilience to endure? Right. And so that's the majority of my writing, is more like sort of like memoir, processy type blog writing around that part of the work. Okay. But another part of my writing is also writing articles. I write for the Huffington Post and Foreign Policy and Focus, and I've guest wrote them. And so for me, it's about also getting the message out about this work, about some of the stories that people, that some of the work of the storytellers that we work with. And so I'll use that also as a publicity, a way to get publicity for these people.
And when you're writing about foreign policy, in what area?
So I really keep it way in the personal realm. Okay. I keep it in, I think a lot of times we get caught up in what is what is the best policy to, to make change for farmers in Uganda. And what we forget to do is in that debate a lot of times, the global community a lot of times forget to include the voices of the people who the policy will affect. And not include them in some arbitrary way, like when the policy is already over or decisions are already made. But in the very beginning, when the idea of addressing some issue is being put on the table, that's when you need the voices to be like, I'm sorry, the problem will never get better without this, or if
input.
Yeah, whatever it is. And so that's my angle around foreign policy is like, I think we miss a huge opportunity to have impactful policy by not including the voices of the people that in the place that they're working.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk about how does somebody hire you guys to do this work for them?
Yeah, so that's been a really exciting part of our work is offering our services for a fee for service. So people will hire us, like either companies or organizations or coalitions. They'll hire us to come in and do our storytelling workshop with their constituents or their employees or their volunteers. And we go all over the world. So we have just been doing some work in Miami with the High Water Line project down there, which is an art and climate project. We've gone, like I said, abroad. And so the best way to hire, so that's the workshops. But then the other thing that we do is we do individual one-on-one story coaching. And this is what I spend the majority of my time doing. Is someone like you, say you're going to keynote at a conference, you want to tell your personal story of why it is that you're doing the work that you're doing. You would hire me, and we would work together over the course of a few weeks, sometimes months, depending on how many sessions you're doing, and we would develop your personal story and really write your speech with my support. And that coaching piece has been really exciting to me because I get to really, really work with someone and give them the space to perfect, or to, not perfect, but to really feel comfortable in their story and get to knock it out of the park.
Yeah, that's important because stories are personal and private.
Yeah.
And you want the person to be able to communicate it in a way that's from the heart. Okay? And in all the people that you've trained, what have been some of their testimonies after taking your workshop or your coaching?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, okay, so I'm really excited right now because I worked with a woman named Callie Curry. Her artist name is Swoon, and she's a really well-known female street artist based out of New York. And now she's public with her story and all of this, so I can speak about it. Is she came to the Million Person Project because she gets invited to speak at universities, at conferences, all over, but she never felt like she could really talk about her personal story, about what inspires her to do a lot of the work that she's doing, because she felt it was too personal. See, she grew up in a household that was really affected by drugs. And she got to see firsthand what the effect was of the way that society looked at, drug users as, lower than people look down upon those drug users. And what she is working now to try to transform is that question. Instead of saying, oh, why the despicable behavior, or why aren't you taking care of your kids, to really ask the question, why the pain?
Yes.
What is the pain underneath what you're going through that's causing this drug use?
Yes.
And so when Callie presents her personal story of her journey to coming to being able to ask that question to her mother, it's you really get a real sense of the passion that Callie is carrying, and the depth in which she's talking, the depth of the social transformation that she's working to create.
Okay.
And so it was so fun to work with Callie. And when she presented her story, after she presented her story at the 2013 Feast for Good conference last fall, I was looking on Twitter watching it while it happened, and she got a forever standing ovation, and people were just so inspired by her. And then an editor for CNN was in the audience and has now invited her to write an op-ed piece talking about this question.
Oh, wow.
Why the pain?
Wow.
And that makes me so happy, because I know that Callie's work will have such a larger, broader audience now that she was able to really connect and inspire in the way that she did.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, I want to shift, and I want you to talk about the global power shift.
Okay.
And what that's about.
Okay, so Global Power Shift was a conference that happened last summer in Turkey. And it was put on by a coalition of environmental and climate organizations. And it was led by 350.org, who is one of our partners.
Okay.
And so what that conference was amazing. It brought together 600 young people from 135 different countries around the world.
Wow.
Who were working on social and environmental issues in their communities.
Okay.
And many people that came to the conference, it was their first time leaving their country. So it was, besides being just completely inspiring, it was just so much fun. And the Million Person Project, what Julian and I did at the conference, we were brought there to really support people who were stepping on stage for this level of an audience, for the first time. And so we were providing story coaching for people, like, say you were going to speak in 2 days. So we would work with you on presenting your personal story from the stage there.
Okay.
And that was just so exciting to watch the transformation of someone who had never spoken in front of a group of 600 people get up there and share their story and just knock it out of the park. And again, when the two people who we had worked with got up on stage, they stepped off of stage, and there was CNN Turkey saying, "Hey, can you come and tell your story on live, on air?" And so that was so exciting to watch their faces be like, "Heather, Julian, we're going on the news." And I think that's like, this is the thing, is like, as human beings, we're craving realness.
Yes,
we're craving connection.
Yes,
and we don't want to talk up here all the time about what we do and what qualifies us. We want to talk about what motivates us, and we want to hear. That's how trust is built, is by understanding what somebody's real intention is behind what they're doing.
Yes. So, Heather, as we wind down the show, oh my God, I'm getting emotional. I want you to kind of look at the camera and speak to viewers, like, just zero in and share with them the importance of their story. Okay. And how it may be them watching tonight afraid to share that story of child abuse or domestic violence, whatever that story is. I want them to realize that pain can now be turned into joy and healing.
Yeah.
In that message of sharing what is happening. So I want you to just speak to the camera and let that person who's watching right now realize that we're waiting on them to bring forth that message that pain that they've been carrying for years.
Yeah.
Now they can release it into a message of hope to help someone else because of what may have happened to them. Please do that.
Okay.
Share that.
So yeah, so that really is a deep belief of mine, is that every single one of us has a story to share. And I can guarantee that there's somebody out there right now that's waiting to hear your story, that's waiting to hear how you have overcome the challenges in your life, to waiting to hear where you got the inspiration that you're to do what you're doing. And that through having the courage and through seeking the support to tell that story, that you can really find energy in your own story. You can find in something that always bummed you out or brought you down, that story can be something to really stand on and to really share in a way that brings people together and brings community to you as opposed to apart.
Okay, so as we end tonight, I want the viewers to realize that we're waiting on you. And just as Heather has talked about the Million Person Project, you tonight watching are the million person that we're waiting on. I had a story, and I'm hoping to craft that story into my passion, but now we're waiting on you. And there's no accident that you're watching tonight. Whatever that story may be, it may be pain, it may be a child molestation, whatever that message is, it's going to help not just you, but it's going to help your community. So we want to close by saying that if you're ready now to bring that message of hope, based on whatever that pain was, whatever you've gone through, or maybe it's an idea, something that you want to rock the community with, whatever the message is, we're waiting on you. So, waiting on you to contact sharingstories2@gmail.com, because you may be the next $1 million person waiting to change the world. Thank you for watching. And Heather, you want to let them know how to contact you?
Yeah, so I would love to hear from you, and you can go to themillionpersonproject.org, and you can contact me at heather@themillionpersonproject.org. And I would love to just leave you with the poem that really inspired me and Julian, and it's one of the foundations of our project, and that's by Hafiz. And that's, the subject tonight is love, and tomorrow night as well. As a matter of fact, I can think of no better topic for us to discuss until we all die.
So, there you have it. We want to thank you for watching Sharing Stories.